Reforming representative democracy. Perhaps the major reason why we need to reform representative democracy is because of the steady growing vote among the young for authoritarian leaders and far-right parties. There has been enormous growth in them in Britain, France, Germany, and now the United States. One of these parties has seized control of the government of Hungary and has largely eliminated democracy as a consequence. Nor is this a recent trend. If you look at public opinion polling, you will see over the last 4 decades, there's been a steady growth of votes among the young for authoritarian leaders.
One reason this shift has occurred is the power of money in the political process has increased. The high cost of campaigns has meant that politicians have to be either millionaires or spend a great deal of time raising money.
The large cost of campaigns has resulted in the election of millionaires. The majority of congresspeople now are millionaires. A third of the cabinet of Macron and double that in the UK are also millionaires. But it isn't only just the cost of campaigns, it is the amount of money that is being spent by far-right people on think tanks that influence representatives, that is, people who are interested in becoming representatives of the government.
A dramatic example of the influence of money on political campaigns is the first campaign of Macron for president of France. 10 contributors, all from the top 0.1% of the income distribution, contributed 1/2 of the cost of his campaign. Immediately upon being elected, Macron's government passed laws that reduced the taxes on the rich, and as a consequence, the government budget slipped into a deficit, and now there's discussion of how to cut social services.
Many of the proposals that have been made for reforming democracy to us do not make much sense. A rather common theme is empowering the people, but no explanation as to how you're going to do that.
A cross-national survey by the Pew Center reports that most individuals want better politicians. This is more striking evidence that democracy needs to be reformed. But finding better politicians is not likely to occur in the absence of reform because of the influence of money.
To think correctly about how to reform democracy, we have to go back to basics and say, what is the central idea in democracy? It is the separation of powers, where the people who are making the decisions are elected. Usually, thinking about the separation of powers horizontally, there are 3 or 2 centers of power, and of course there are various hybrids of them.
Horizontally, there are usually 2 or 3 centers of power, 2 in parliamentary regimes and 3 in presidential regimes. There's also a vertical dimension, and that is at the national level, and then at a lower level at states or provinces or lander, depending on the country. And below that, a third level of local or provincial governments, towns and cities.
Our proposal to create more centers of power is to create SIONs, systematic, coordinated, interorganizational networks that have 4 characteristics. A group of organizations who have the same goal, a network coordinating organization that helps integrate them, an agreed upon goal, usually something involving institutional change, and periodic measurement of how well the SION is at achieving these goals.
We have demonstrated the efficacy of SIONs in an earlier study of inequality in healthcare for women in a developing country. The SION there, in that study, produced a great deal of change in a very short period of time. And it managed to overcome managerial ignorance and aversion to change and risk-taking. Nor is this the only example Semitech, a scion created in America in the 90s, managed to save the American semiconductor industry from competition.
In our book, Solving Crises of Capitalism and Democracy, we propose scions to create more equality in education, to customize health and welfare, and to create a better balance between law and order at the community level. One of the great advantages of scions for reforming government is they're easy to start. It doesn't require any government action. If there are a group of organizations and concerned citizens at the local level, they can create a scion to solve some problem, and then you probably easily attain local funding for that.
These problems of inequality in education and a lack of coordination between educational systems and local labor markets, of a lack of balance between freedom and discipline within the legal system, or lack of customization in health and social services. These are complex problems and cannot be resolved at the local level by government action. For example, a big problem in education is that parents may think their children have a small chance to succeed in school, or they may not know how to supervise their children at doing homework. And these are problems it's very difficult for the school system to address by itself. But within the context of a scion, these problems may find solutions. In addition, periodic measurement of the achievements of a scion will focus local action on effective policies, reducing the role of ideology as well as the influence of outside money. Leadership and expertise in an NCO can promote local progress toward community goals. Another advantage of scions is that they allow decisions to be customized to particular circumstances of a community and the needs of individual clients, something that universal laws and services dictated by central governments cannot do. This is critical because increasingly, as we have argued in our books, customization is important to the typical voter and essential for the solving of complex problems.
Scions also deal with another basic problem of democracy, namely the absence of social capital. As Putnam points out in his book, Bowling Alone, there's been growing lack of social capital, meaning trust in others, as is evident by the polarization in this country. With scions, there's an opportunity to find compromises and learn to respect the other person's point of view.
Scions provide an opportunity for dialogue among people with opposing viewpoints, allowing them to come to understand each other and search for compromise. This process builds trust and understanding within the community, and by involving diverse organizations brings many parts of communities together, so that it helps to reestablish social capital, and this becomes an important part of reforming democracy.
In summary, scions reform democracy by creating a local level that can escape the influence of campaign money. They build social capital and provide a platform for compromises, and as a consequence, solutions to complex problems.